Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant. Today we are at the next topic, that is how to build an attack. We are looking at ways of creating attack. This was the position in the game. White played e4, to which black replied e5. So I have kept that position. Just a little bit I want to tell you here. Had black taken de4, knight e4, knight e4, queen e4, then one of the pawns would have moved in front of the king, and then white would have attacked on the king side. Similar situation happens in the game, hence I am not entering into those details here. Black played the move e5, thinking that he should keep the position as closed as possible. White's move e4 opens this c1 bishop, and we will see both these bishops raging towards the black king. White of course opens the game, e takes d5. There is some analysis here which we should look at definitely. Knight d5 and queen d5 both look similar and look promising. The move queen d5 in fact at first looks nice, because knight d5 will remove one defender from the black king. But here comes bishop c4, and we will see that in all lines, whether the queen moves to d6, d7 or d8, white troubles the black king in different ways. Because when we start with this position, initially it looks like black is slightly better developed than white because of the c5 bishop. But now we will soon realize this potential of this d2 knight. When it goes to e4, this bishop on c1 becomes open, and the f7 square, which is somewhat weak. Let's see. Let's say qd6, then comes knight g5 attacking f7, and now if re7, we see the very simple ne4. Look at the situation. Knight takes e4 forced, knight takes e4, suddenly the bishop on c5, which looked great, is lost. No different is the move qd7. Here some different trouble. Knight g5 again, once again forcing rook e7. This time knight e4, queen takes e4. See how nicely the queen and the knight and the bishop, they are useful in the attack. We want to force one of the pawn to move and then force second. So g6, qh4, forcing the h pawn to move as well, and after h5, see the disaster happening on the black squares. Now the bishop hangs, and knight f6 check will cost the queen. So the bishop has to be given up. Finally, let's have a look at the move qd8 as well. After qd8, again here we can either go with the move knight g5, which is also good. This time perhaps there is rook f8 or b6, but first knight b3 here, attacking the bishop. Bishop goes back b6 or f8 wherever. This time white can use the move bishop g5, and now rook d1, rook e1. Here also we can say white is much better. White could also consider the move knight g5 here as well, because after rook e7 the rook is highly misplaced. It was very important to understand this analysis, because later on we might find that why this knight f6 move to d5, black would have well played qd5. See, the knight is coming to center, but as I said, one defender from the king side is going away. Knight now threatens nf4, this bishop would be lost. White goes knight b3. Knight eyes the c5 square, attacks the bishop, wants to push the bishop back to f8. After bf8, as we saw, most likely white would continue with either queen e4 or ng5 or the move rook d1. Each one has his own ideas. Rook d1 threatens c4, when after knight moves bh7 check, queen would be lost. Knight g5, then h7 becomes weak. So we would have threat of after h6, bh7, king h8, knight. Black goes with the move qb6, which is apparently active, and after knight c5, qc5, black thinks he is well off. But see now, what has happened? The whole topic of our indicators of attack was meant to understand the attack, and here I am trying to combine 2 or 3 ideas. Like, for becoming a successful attacker, it is very important to know when to switch gears, when the pieces start going to the king side. Like, see, here there is the move knight g5, the queen has been lured away from the king side, and here white finds the tactical bishop takes h7, king h7, queen e4 check. See, not only is interested in the pawn, but do note that after qd5, this bishop is compelled to go back, and once the bishop goes back to f8, see, white has surrendered his powerful bishop. So one might feel there is some compensation because bishop is given up, black has the bishop pair, but there is no bishop pair story here. Both bishops of black are poorly placed. So white is the one with lot of initiative here. Apparently it looks like there is no attack. One pawn has already moved in front of the king. We will force one more to move and the position will be shattered. That is one of the basic secrets of attacking the castled king. Somehow force one pawn to move and then whichever square is weakened, let's say h7 movement weakens the g6 square. So the defense g6 we will try to force after h7 is moved. Then both g6 and h6 become weak, f6 becomes weak. This is what we want. So white goes with the move ng5 here. Perfect switching of the attack now. And we will see that this queen and knight will never come to this side. It's almost game over here itself. One would feel it's very early to say so, but it's not. Now white will transfer his queen to the king side quickly. b6 almost forced. Knight e6 would be good for exchanging the pieces, but white would give up on his whole attack. Queen comes to e4. As I said, queen is heading to h4 now. One more pawn we want black to move. Like g6 is ideally what we want. Many feel that the move f5 is good enough, but f5 makes or creates more holes into the black position. Still comes queen h4. We see the disaster has already struck in the form of bh7. Now there is no respite. First see qh7 is made. The move bishop c5 uses a nice tactic. See knight e6, rook e6, qc4. Double attack on bishop and the rook. One of them is lost. qh7 is also good. Bishop on d6 fails to queen h7 check. King f8, queen g6. The bishop cannot go to g8 because d6 hangs. So only move knight d8, supporting e6 and guarding f7. But now see knight h7. Game over. King g8 allows knight f6 check. ke7 allows both bg5 or queen g7. So black preferred not to play f5. Black goes with the move g6 here. This is what I was talking about. Now one pawn is gone, other one we have compelled to move. See how the squares f6, h6, h7, all the three have become weak. Queen h4, it's almost game over. White plays precisely to finish the game. Only move bg7. After bd6, white can choose amongst many things. This simple qh7, king f8, and look at the small tactic knight e6. f into e6 allows bh6 checkmate. So rook e6 forced when just qh8 check and a8 is lost. So we can well conclude that after the move qb6, there was absolutely nothing. White's attack just flowed smoothly. Black goes bg7 and now one great move after another. be3, precise move order. White holds qh7 check, king f8. He wants to use either the bishop on c5 or the knight to c5 depending on where the queen moves. Let's say qc7, black didn't play qc7, then comes qh7, king f8, bc5 check, forcing knight e7, and here I think there are many ways. Knight e6, fe, qg6 is good, but there would be qc5 over there. So it's not the best way to go on. White has qg7, but exchanges takes place. White goes other way around. Queen takes g6. Note that after qc5, white has queen takes e6. fg6 is even worse because knight e6 check, king f7 or g8, knight c7, black loses further material. Since qc7 loses by force, black plays queen a6. First qh7 check, king f8, knight c5, gaining tempo on the queen. Queen tries to be as active as possible, tries to support e6, knight c6, fe6, queen takes g6. The game is played as if a forced combination has taken place, but I must tell you it was not white to play at win position. It was the attack which was built. Black plays the only move, nd8, queen f7 was threatened. It was very tempting for white to play the move f4. f4, ef then rook f4, forcing e4, f5, forcing e5, f6. And now after bh8c, knight h7 mates. He goes with the more forced knight h7 check, ke7 loses to qg7, but white has the even stronger rook d1, cutting off the king, and after rook g8 we see bishop g5, pf6, bishop takes f6, checkmate. King g8 forced, black chose to resign after the move nf6. King f8, then queen e8 mates, no different is kh8, still queen e8 check, bishop f8, queen takes f8, checkmate. So we saw white's skill over here, how the master converts the game after the move e5. The plan should be there in mind to force the enemy to push pawns in front of his castled position and then force him to move one more pawn. I hope you are finding these lessons useful and instructive. Do let me know in the comments below. Thanks for your time.